I expect everybody knows how Zoom calls work these days. I'll invite everyone to introduce themselves in the chat, and you can get started on that if you want. Just your name and what county you live in Pennsylvania would be wonderful. All right, we've got a pretty full agenda tonight, so let's get started. Did I forget anything? I got the recording started. Welcome everyone to the Sierra Club of Pennsylvania Summer Webinar Series. My name is Jim Wiley. I'm a volunteer with the Zero Waste chapter conservation team. I'm sure we are all well versed in Zoom etiquette by now. Please keep your microphone muted during the presentation. You're invited to introduce yourself in the chat box. Tell us your name and what county you live in. I expect we will have a good representation from across the state today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please drop them in the chat. I don't know how much time we'll have for Q&A at the end, before the end of the hour, but we can always hang in there after 8 o'clock and do some Q&A. Okay. Just a little context. In February of this year, the Pennsylvania chapter of the Sierra Club formed 8 conservation teams, as shown in this diagram. These teams can be viewed in the context of overall sustainability, climate change, and education about these broader topics. Of course, sustainability rests on the pillars of people, planet, and profit. And in Pennsylvania, we have a support system of staff and volunteers to help each of our teams with equity, political outings, and communications assistance, as well as legal assistance, the Clean Energy for All campaign, and a bit of grant funding for worthy causes. All 8 of the chapter conservation teams can be found on the Pennsylvania website, where you'll find each team's mission statement, priorities for the year, and all kinds of info on these issue areas developed by our volunteer teams with the help of chapter and national staff. All of our teams have a general mission of looking at their respective issue from a statewide perspective, tracking relevant Pennsylvania policy and legislation, and supporting group and local volunteers working in this space. So tonight, our agenda is we're going to be split into 3 parts. First off, Carol Armstrong is going to walk us through some of the highlights of the Story of Plastic documentary. And then we're going to have a few of our volunteers introduce or talk about their experiences with some low impact products. And then finally, Fawn is going to talk about the power that kids hold in the fight against single-use plastics. Okay, I'm going to stop my screen and Carol can take it away. And you're on mute, Carol.
There you go, that helps. My name is Carol Armstrong, and I'm a member of the Pennsylvania Sierra Club Zero Waste team. We're presenting a few portions of a film, The Story of Plastics, to bring home the connection between plastic pollution and the producers of plastic, that is the fossil fuel and petrochemical industries, and how plastics are central to climate change. So please forgive my slight clumsiness as I try to piece together portions of what is a 1.5-hour film. The latter half of the film focuses on solutions, both in zero waste practices and in policy. The 25 minutes of film today only touch on these issues, but we hope to interest you to view the entire film. And the producers have given us a temporary link so that you can watch the the other hour of film for free, or the total 1.5 hours until July 1. And I believe that Jim will put that free link that you can use until July 1. Please don't pass the link on to others. This is just for this event. You can also purchase the film through Amazon for $3. It is a 5-star film that's very beautifully made. Some of the scenes of plastic waste that you're going to see in this film in the environment are going to be extreme, but some of our local communities suffer from a massive amount of plastic waste that's embedded in the ground, among the plants, and in the water. I've seen these areas. In all places, microplastics are in our air, water, and especially agricultural soils. Scientists say that the problem of plastics is now on a level as critical to our Earth's functionality as is climate heating, ocean acidification, and ozone depletion. So this is a global problem. The film covers the history of plastics up to our current situation and shows how government action after action opened the way for plastics to be subsidized by our plastics to a tune of $5 trillion a year, how it became integrated into our ways of living, and how consumers became burdened with the cost of cleaning up the waste. It gives the perspective of industry and investigations on the effects of plastics in the environment. The film evaluates several approaches to managing the plastics problem, including the most economically and environmentally beneficial one, zero waste. The Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act of 2021 was introduced to the United States Senate on March 25th of this year, and therefore it's more recent and not included in this film. And it goes beyond the scope of our webinar today, but I hope you to learn more about it and let your US representative and senator know if you support it. I hope you find this film enlightening, as I have every time I see it. The examples of zero waste in cities and countries around the world inspire me and give me hope for the time that Pennsylvania joins the fight against overproduction of environment damaging plastics. We're here to become educated about the problem so that we can inform and urge the companies whose products we purchase, our political representatives, and other residents in our communities that zero waste is important to achieve. So I'm going to share my screen now. So thank you very much for viewing that. And remember to look up the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act of 2021. Thanks.
Thanks, Carol. And again, everybody can watch that full version of the film on their own. I put a link to it in the chat. I put a link in the reminder email, and I'll send out again tomorrow when I send the recap of this. So thank you all. Next, so that was a really good setup for the problem. And now we're going to talk about a couple of things that build on top of that. In this next segment, we will look at 4 products that most of us use that are packaged in plastic, and we can eliminate that plastic packaging. Emily, Greg, Corinne, and Robin are going to talk to us. Emily goes first. Go ahead.
Emily, oh, there you go.
Yep. Sorry, missed on that. Standard Zoom problem. I'm going to talk about toothpaste. And while plastic packaging is the topic of this program, I think it's important to understand why we use toothpaste, because it will help us figure out some solutions for ourselves. And I'll give you some of those in a while. Okay. We dispose of millions, perhaps billions of toothpaste tubes every year. According to Colgate, the world's top toothpaste manufacturer, as many as 20 billion toothpaste tubes are made every year. Most tubes are made of different materials layered together like aluminum and plastic. This makes recycling difficult and the end product of recycling less valuable. Colgate has started to make the tube easier to recycle by using just high-density polyethylene or number 2 plastic. They're also partnering with TerraCycle, though I did not see any TerraCycle symbol on any of the boxes of Colgate in my local Rite Aid, but the recycle symbol was there. The TerraCycle symbol was on the Tom's of Maine box. The Colgate TerraCycle website says they have collected over 5 million items. I think the most important thing here is that the producer, Colgate, is taking some responsibility for the end of the product. Ashley Bayer of Nature Nut has organized a TerraCycle collection site at the community store in Phoenixville which collects toothpaste tubes along with many other items. I'll put a link to the full list in the chat. Why do we brush our teeth in the first place? We brush to get rid of plaque. Plaque is made of, show you a picture of plaque there, is a biofilm made of sugars and bacteria. Humans have been cleaning their teeth for thousands of years. Abrasives like eggshells or pumice or charcoal were used with a stick or a finger. In the 1870s, Dr. Sheffield's cream dentifrice became the first toothpaste packaged in a collapsible tube. His company became Colgate. So we've been disposing of tubes for a long time, though plastic ones haven't been around that long. And the practice of regular brushing didn't become common in the US until after World War II. Some solutions. The first one is to use less. Pea-size amount is all you need, which is about 1/3 of what most people put on a brush. So you could cut the number of tubes you throw away by a factor of 3. I found also that after I squeezed all that I could out, I could get about 5 more brushings if I cut open the tube. Another option is to look at what's the container. You can buy toothpaste in a glass container. Companies like Geo Organics and Lucky Teeth offer toothpaste in glass containers. You can use tablet form. In a tablet, you chew on the tablet and then brush. There are a variety of places that these can be purchased. Some are in glass, some are in paper, and some are in plastic. You can use tooth powder. That can be also purchased in glass or paper or plastic. Another is to make your own. There are plenty of recipes on the internet. The effectiveness seems to be similar to commercial toothpaste. And the last solution is just to use a brush. A brush seems to be the primary agent for removing plaque. Myself, I started slowly. First, just cutting down on the use and then scraping the dregs out of the tube. Then I moved to Toothy Tabs, which I purchased at Lush, a short walk from my home. They come in a plastic bottle, although it is made from 100% recycled plastic. Then I moved to making my own tooth powder and then to just a brush. I really miss the minty flavor, so I actually switched back to the homemade powder and the brush. I hope you can find a solution that fits you, and thanks.
Thanks, Emily. I neglected to invite people to give their reactions. If you want to find the reactions button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you can applaud or show your tears or whatever. And I guess if you have questions for Emily, drop them in the chat and she can respond while the next presenter is talking, which is Greg, which is going to talk about bottles. I need to bring up the slides.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. Emily, that was awesome. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the case for reusing plastic bottles and containers. And I'm going to give some examples that my wife and myself and my family use that I think makes a big difference. And at first I was like, hey, what am I going to talk about? She's like, well, how about this? This is what we've been doing for a while. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. I don't even have to make anything up. So just, you know, when you're at a BJ's or a Costco or at the supermarket, you see that flat of bottled water or Gatorade, and it's a really good price. You know, we need to think about, you know, what we're buying, and really also it's a financial thing as far as how much things cost. Just as a, you know, water is dirt cheap, you know, from your tap, a couple pennies a serving, even with a filter if you have that. And the things that we're purchasing at the store, even the discount things, are at least $1 a gallon. And so we spend a lot of money on bottled water, and each person consumes roughly 39 gallons of it annually. So there's a lot to be said about how we get our water, whether it's from a tap with a filtration system or that we're buying bottled water from the stores. Jim, if you want to flip the next slide for me. So these are some common examples of things that we buy, like the convenience bottle of water. We were going through these iced tea pitchers, probably 2 a week, and it's so senseless because I mean it's a whole gallon. They feel really great when you're holding them. They're balanced and they're easy to pour. They don't spill. And they're roughly $3. The Gatorade, where you think you earned it because you worked out and you need your electrolytes. So it's like, well, I'm just gonna splurge and buy that bottle of Gatorade for roughly $1.50. And same thing for when you need that pick me up. You look at like a 16-ounce Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi, what have you. That's roughly $1.50. So if you look, you're looking at about $1.50 for a serving. Or if you're getting that gallon of iced tea, it tastes so good, is about $3. And I think you're all familiar with these commercial products that I'm showing here. All right, Jen, next slide. And I think this is the key, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the movie that we saw. Across the globe, we're drinking about 1.5 billion single plastic bottles daily. I mean, and that's not even really evenly distributed. Like obviously in the United States and Europe, we're consuming way more proportionally versus other countries that are developing. But that's about 0.5 trillion bottles per year. And what that equates to, let's say none of it's recycled. That's about 4 to 5. It's about 11 million tons of plastic waste. And that's roughly the weight of about 4 million Ford F-150 four-wheel drive pickup trucks, as far as an example of what that weighs. And I mean, that's just plastic bottles. I mean, that has nothing to do with anything else other than drink bottles. Is roughly 4 million Ford 150 four-wheel drives that we're throwing away of plastic, and a lot of it ends up in the ocean. So what's the solution? How do we stop using all these plastic bottles and be part of the solution versus part of the problem? Jim, next slide, please. Before I go back to the solution, I just also want to talk about what water weighs. Like we're hauling a lot of water. It's a part of the problem, not just the plastic itself, but the fuel required to deliver that water to the store, and then the fuel required to take that water from the store to your house. And then even if you just look at like how much weight everything is, what you're picking up and bringing into your house, it's a lot. If you're purchasing a case of drinks once a month, whether it be a flat of Gatorade or a flat of canned water or whatever, you're roughly taking about 336 pounds of water into your household from the store via your car each year. So all right, Jim, next. So these are 4 products that I actually use, and we use it in our household. And I wanted to talk about, are they any good? Because a lot of times you find things that are supposed to be environmental, or they replace something that you like, and they don't taste great. But these products are they hit it out of the park. And basically, you could use a glass jug, or you can use that 1 gallon Arnold Palmer iced tea jug. You can use that forever. I mean, it just doesn't break, it doesn't get brittle. You can fill it and fill it and fill it hundreds of times. For the water bottle, I really like this. It's called True Lime, and it's packaged in a little thin cardboard box, and the packages inside are almost like little. Almost like a sugar package, if you would, but there's no sugar in it. And this is fantastic. You take some tap water or some filtered water, you drop a packet of this stuff in, you mix it up, and now it tastes like you've got lime water. Like you squeeze some fresh squeezed limes in there. It really is a really great taste. My customer actually turned me on to this, and they have it in their lunchroom now. And people, instead of buying bottles of soda, they're actually making their own lime water. The second example, and incidentally, that's roughly about 5 cents per serving, and you can buy that on Amazon. And the whole thing weighs about 1 ounce for the whole box, with all those different servings in it. Now you'll see that like if you go to a brand name like the Arnold Palmer iced tea, it's it's about 73 cents per gallon, so it's a little bit more, but it's the original formula. So like if you love that Arnold Palmer half and half, and you think that's the cat's meow, you can refill your jug for very little money and save yourself all the lugging of water all around. And it just feels good not buying that stuff off the shelf. And after you've recycled a few 20 or 30 of these things, you realize what a waste it is. The next thing that we use, and that tastes identical to the original, another identical to the original is the Gatorade Zero. It comes in a cardboard box, again inside of their little packets, has all the electrolytes and all the chemicals that the normal Gatorade has, except you just mix it with water. It tastes exactly the same as the pre-mixed. And if you want, you can use your Gatorade bottle and reuse it, put it in there, it turns that nice color blue. You'd never know that it wasn't purchased off the shelf, that you made it yourself. And it's interesting, like these first three things, like when I grew up, right, everybody would have Kool-Aid. And then, and that was the thing, you make Kool-Aid for the kids. You would never think of buying Kool-Aid in a jug with the water already mixed. Kool-Aid only came in the packages, and that was the beauty of it. You can make a batch of Kool-Aid at your house in a glass pitcher with the ice in it and serve the whole neighborhood for next to nothing. We really are going back to kind of how things were in a way with these first three examples. Now, the last product is, let's say you're really hooked on, Coca-Cola or Pepsi or some other type of, carbonated beverage. A lot of people like seltzer water. This would be looking at something like a SodaStream, where they sell it online, they sell it in Bed Bath & Beyond. It basically has a CO2 cartridge that's food grade. You put your water in it, then you add the CO2, and then you put your flavoring in it. And it's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's as good as the store bought. And I don't actually think it saves you any money over store bought, but it does reduce the amount of plastic you're using. The original kit will come with the plastic jugs. They're good for about 3 years. Those are the plastic 1 liter containers you see in the picture. So that's probably not as good of an example, but if you're a junkie and you're going through 1 liter and 2 liter bottles of seltzer water like crazy, you might want to consider doing one of these types of devices. You can also trick them out and buy less expensive CO2 and have like a big tank under the countertop and run it that way. So if anybody wants to know more about that, you can hit me up in chat or catch me after the meeting, which is fine. So all in all, these products taste like the original. They're really inexpensive and you're not lugging water everywhere. Jim, next slide, please.
I think that's it.
That's it. That is my presentation. And I stand behind my word. Try these products. I think you'll love them.
Okay, thanks, Greg. We need to keep moving. Up next is Corinne, going to talk about shampoo.
Hi, everybody. My name is Corinne, and I'm a member of the Zero Waste group from Montgomery County. And I'd like to spend a little time talking with you about hair care, shampoo products in particular. There are about 130 million households in the United States, or more than 332 million people. And I do think that the vast majority of us are continuing to use plastic bottles of shampoo and conditioner, which is completely unnecessary because there are great products out there. I hope you can see this. This is a bar shampoo that I picked up at Trader Joe's. It costs $4. It's packaged in a stiff cardboard that's waxed so that it's easy to transport. And I've used it. It gives fantastic results. This particular product is a peppermint and tea tree oil product. I was concerned that it might be a little medicinal, and it was absolutely lovely. And as you can see, I have a lot of hair, so I really took it for a test drive. Again, a $4 product that lasts. Likewise, I went to my Whole Foods, and they sell a couple of different brands at my local Whole Foods. This one is Liggett's. It's a slightly smaller bar for $6, and this is the herbal formula. Absolutely lovely, worked fantastically well. I was 110% satisfied, as I was with the larger and less expensive Trader Joe's product. And I tried a conditioner, a bar conditioner, which was made by High Bar. And this is a $12 product, a little pricey, but when you think of the contribution you're making of not buying plastic that often is not recycled, we know that we've been really misled a lot about recycling. You're making a good investment, and it lasts. When you really think about it, when you buy a bottle, a plastic bottle of hair conditioner, the number one ingredient is water. So this is basically that product concentrated with the water removed. It's easy to use. It gave me great results. A number of my friends have told me they like the products at Lush. And another friend has said Ethicue makes great bar shampoos and great conditioners. For all of you parents out there of middle school and high school age kids, I think this is a great opportunity to share these products with them, not only for use in your household, but also to have these young people become ambassadors at their schools, possibly through their homerooms or their science classes or their phys ed classes or little mini courses or in-services that a lot of schools allow children to become involved with and often lead. Any of you that may have contacts with some of the high-end boutique environmentally inclined hotels, maybe this is an opportunity for you to approach them and say, you know, one of the ways they could distinguish themselves as a hotel is to offer these bar products for shampoo and conditioner rather than using plastic bottles. And it's in keeping with how I think they're trying to portray themselves as a greater environmental steward. So these products are great. They give great results. You're not compromising in any way. They're easy to transport. They're priced right. And you can get them at a number of stores readily or buy them online. So I hope you'll take them up and pass the word. One of the things that I'm doing now is when I go to a friend's home for dinner, since I'm fully vaccinated, is I bring a bar with me. In addition to maybe a dish that I'm sharing or a bouquet of flowers from my garden, I bring a bar of shampoo and say, this is a great product. Have you tried it? Please consider, passing the word along. And I think, again, with 130 million households in the United States, we can only imagine how many plastic bottles are unnecessarily being purchased. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Corinne. Robin, if it's okay, can I move you to after Fawn's presentation? And
Absolutely.
you can be in the overflow. So why don't you get started, Fawn? You can share your screen.
Hi, everyone. I am Fawn Contreras. I do youth services at the Valley Community Library, and I'm going to talk to you about kids and plastic. Why is it important to have kids involved in discussions about zero waste, and what power do they have? Before we get into that, you can use the chat. Why is reducing plastic important to you? Why do you care about climate change and the environment? Go ahead and put in the chat your top 1 or 2 reasons. When asking kids about this, or maybe you yourself, you'd think about news headlines and the images that you see with plastic's effect on birds, on sea life, and living conditions and air quality. All of these are important to me. However, More than that, I think about my kids. As a mom, I am constantly worrying about my kids, their health, and their future. What will the health impacts of plastic be on them? What will the world look like in 30 to 60 years from now? What world will my maybe possibly grandkids inherit one day? So I think that kids are really important to be involved, and they are huge advocates. If you have kids or work with kids, you already know that once kids are passionate about something, they will share it. They talk about it nonstop, and they're very outspoken. By teaching our children about the problem with plastic, how to reduce our waste, and about being good stewards of the earth, they will become advocates and be part of the solution. This is an image of my daughter helping clean up with Earth Day. And just this weekend, we walked by the same site that we picked up all the litter from. And she goes, "Mom, I don't understand why people do this. We need to bring our garbage bags back down here and clean up again." So things stick with them and they become passionate about the earth. When our children learn, they take action. The more they learn, the more passionate they will become. The more they will speak out and find creative ways to be advocates. Children are innovative and always looking for solutions. Allow them space to dream and imagine the world they want. Help them lift their voices, dreams, and messages. So when we went into lockdown last year, we studied different environmental things, plastic being one of them. And this is a poster that my oldest made about plastic. And she put facts on there, and she used my social media accounts to spread her message of reducing or saying goodbye to single-use plastics. One interesting fact that I'll read to you are there are more microplastics in the ocean than there are stars in the Milky Way. Wow. So last year, the Valley Community Library partnered with the Sierra Club to present Go Green Plastic Awareness for Families. This was a 3-week-long program that we did via Zoom. In this program, we read the book, Sydney and Simon Go Green by Paul A. Reynolds. We did our own citizen science plastic count, which I will share with you. Did upcycled art projects, learned about advocacy, and all of this was discussed in one small early chapter book. In the book, we had 2 main questions that we asked during our program. How much trash does your family throw out in a week? How many plastic items can you find in your home? To help with this, we gave out tables or papers with a table spreadsheet on it. So this was trash trackers. And each day you would measure how much waste you were throwing out, how much plastic, paper, electronic, food waste, and figure out how much waste your family is outputting each week. By doing this, you're looking at your waste very much in numbers and critically thinking about it. This way you can start thinking about ways to reduce the waste. Then part 2 was plastic tracker. This broke down every room in your house and looked at the different types of plastics we have. So single-use plastics we already know about. Longer use, think shampoo, toothpaste, body wash, razors, and microfibers. Our clothing and towels can contain plastic. And then there's space for observations. So since last year, my family and I have reduced our waste probably the most in the bathroom by switching to bar shampoos and so forth. Another observation that we had that stood out was almost everything is packaged in plastic, especially in the kitchen. Our spices, when we go to the store, everything's wrapped in plastic. So let's do this quick plastic count, and you can use the chat. How many plastic objects are within your reach? Right now, look around you. How many plastic objects can you see right now? When I did this, I took a picture of my desk. And as you can see, I have plastic pens, the book jackets on books, my library card, gifts that I was given, the keyboard, mouse, electronics, Band-Aids, hand sanitizer, and so forth are all made out of plastic or contain plastic. By asking questions like this to our children, doing these exercises starts to raise their awareness. It makes a game out of spotting plastic everywhere you go. Some good news, small changes and actions make a difference. The Valley Community Library just did a collection with TerraCycle to collect old school, home, and office supplies to be recycled. Today, I measured it, and we have collected 10 pounds of plastic waste that we've prevented from going to the landfill. Sharing with kids. When we talk about kids, we watch movies like we just did tonight. Documentaries might be dull or too much information or too much vocabulary for words. If you're trying to get the family together to watch one of these, try having something fun for the kids to do, a craft or a game. Use documentaries as a follow-up to lighter movies like WALL-E that talks about humans having to leave Earth because of all the waste, or a turtle or Happy Feet that shows a penguin choking because of plastic in the ocean, or a turtle's tail. And these are just a couple examples off the top of my head. I'm sure there are more. Anytime that you see environmental impacts in a movie, mention it to the kids and say, let's learn more about this. My favorite way of talking to kids about plastic, the environment, anything that's important are books. I love books. Picture books are my favorite way to talk to kids. They are well written. They're engaging stories that stay with the reader. And picture books aren't only for the young reader. There are many elements that offer good discussion for all ages. I think of a good picture book as something that even adults learn from. There's often back matter, author's notes, research, and websites to visit for kids to learn more. So some fictional books, I Stink. This is a fun, sing-songy type of book that talks about where does the garbage go when you put out the trash? Well, the garbage truck comes along and it makes a ton of noise and it picks it up. And then where does it go? Well, in this book, it gets dumped onto a barge. And where's that? On the ocean. This is a brand new picture book, Moana. And it doesn't talk about trash in the ocean, but the mermaid does make something out of all this human waste at the end of the book. Well, how did those human things, plastic shoes and so forth, get in the ocean? That garbage truck dumped garbage on the barge, and the barge is on the ocean. So they're good to tie in like that. The Giving Tree is another great book. We all know it. It's a classic. It talks about taking and taking and taking. What do we have left when we take everything? And then We Are Water Protectors. I love this book. It ties right into the Story of Plastic movie that we just watched. It talks about being a good steward of the earth and our role in keeping waters clean. And a black snake, the oil, coming and poisoning the water. Well, plastics are made from oil. So it's a good tie in there. There's so much to talk about in books. Now moving on to nonfiction. One Plastic Bag, Isatou Ceesay, and there's Recycling Women of the Gambia. I just read this book for Earth Day. It's wonderful. The harms of plastic to livestock and animals, the danger of plastic pollution. Well, this plastic bag was great for carrying my groceries in, and I'm just going to throw it on the ground like I've seen everybody else do. Well, now I see a pile of plastic bags, and it's mosquitoes are there and it smells bad. So Isatou Ceesay made a change. She thought of an innovative way to work with others to clean up her town, her village. And it's a wonderful book. The Last Straw, Kids versus Plastic. This is poems for children about plastic. It offers interesting small facts about plastic and the environment for children. And it's full of resources. It's a great book. And then there are even more nonfiction books. If you visit your local library and ask them for books that talk about plastic or the environment, your librarian will be happy to help you. This is just a small collection of them. And all of them talk about the harms of plastic, and they offer small, simple changes that kids and families can make to reduce the amount of plastic in their house. Then adults, we need to lead by example. If we want kids to care, we need to show them that we care. So of course, there are books for adults, and you being here is, of course, showing them how interested you are. All right, so how can kids help be part of the solution? Give them leadership roles. Give one child the job to be bag boss. Kids love to be bosses. If they can boss an adult around, you just made their day. So have one child be a bag boss and say, okay, it's your job to remind us to bring our reusable shopping bags every time we go to the store. Let one child be a water bottle refiller. And they'll tell you at the end of the day, did you wash your bottles so that I can fill them up and put them in the fridge? Allow them to be shopping detectives. If you're taking them shopping, can you help me search for something that's not in plastic? Then ask them questions and listen to their ideas. How can we reduce our plastic waste? How can we cut down on what we throw away? What do you think the solution is to our plastic problem? How do we make that idea a reality? And then allow them to use their voice. Part of our plastic awareness for families was postcards against plastic. And that's pictured here. A member of the Sierra Club illustrated these postcards. And then we encourage kids to send them to their local legislators. And then we had about 50 of these postcards go out last year. So I think that was awesome. Encourage kids to tell friends, family, politicians, strangers what they think about plastic. And these postcards were one step to do that. but allow them to tell family around holidays, I really don't want anything that has plastic in it. And then there's a challenge of finding kids' toys that don't have plastic, but at least they have that voice that they're saying, this is what I care about. And then share what you are comfortable with on social media. Kids need to be involved in moving towards zero waste. Children are our future leaders, and what they do today, what we do today affects them. Kids are passionate and vocal advocates who deserve to be listened to. Education about plastics and zero waste practices should be taught at all ages and is being done like we are doing at the Valley Community Library. With tools and knowledge at their disposal, today's children will do even better than our generation. Thank you. There is my contact information if you have any questions, and showing my kids again, because they are definitely what drives me to keep looking for new solutions to reducing our plastic and going zero waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Fawn. That was great. Let me just wrap up here, and then we can talk informally for a few minutes. Yes. So thank you for joining us today, and thanks to our presenters. This was a really great session. Here are a couple of important websites. I encourage you to engage with your local Sierra Club group. Find your group in the Get Involved section of the chapter website. We will be sending out a list of the ways that you can support the zero waste efforts across Pennsylvania tomorrow or the next day, whenever we can get this recording up on our YouTube channel, along with information on how you can stay in touch with our chapter Zero Waste team. I want to boast that Fawn led a initiative to we're creating this spreadsheet of the recycling programs in every county in Pennsylvania. We haven't quite got it done yet, and we're looking for volunteers to help us, but it's going to be a real resource when we get it done. Yeah, so we'll be following up with a link to the recording of this session, any notes that we put together. I saw somebody ask about listing the products that people talked about. We can definitely get that in a follow-up email as well. And we'll invite you to join an upcoming Zero Waste team meeting. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, thank you all. I'm going to stop the recording if I can find that button.